Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. It is currently 3:30 a.m. and I am filming a YouTube video, so it better be worth it and you better give this video a thumbs up. So in this video I want to show you how you can build a C++ application with user interface in just a couple of minutes, and it is going to be very easy, you will see. So here I am going to insert the final result and the application that we are going to build in this video. This is the application that we are going to build. It is a to-do list app and it has a couple of components. So it has a label which says add task, and then an input field where we are going to type the text of our task, and then a button which says add, and it is used in order to add the task that we type here into this list box here. And here we will see the list of all of our tasks. So let's demonstrate how the app is going to work. Let's type task 1 and let's add that task, and as you can see it has been added into this list here. Let's add another task, let's say task 2, and then task 3, task 4, and so on. So that is the first functionality. And then the second functionality that I have implemented is removing existing tasks from this list here. So in order to remove a task, you just click on it, as you can see. So again and again and again. And this means that we have successfully completed all of our tasks. In order to build this app, I'm going to use C++ Builder and RAD Studio. And first, I'm going to show you how to install it. So I will leave a link in the description that you can use in order to download it and try it out for free. So as I said, the first step is to show you how to install it. So when you click the link in the description, you will be navigated to this site here, and you will have to fill this form. So let me do that very quickly, and then I will be back. Okay, so here is the filled form. I am not a robot. Okay, what are bridges here? Verify, and let's click Start Your Trial. Okay, and soon after this, the download should start, so you should get the installer here, and I will be back once this is downloaded. Once the download is finished, you are going to click on the installer, and here you are going to accept terms and conditions and click Next, and then enter new license, and then Next again. And here you are going to select I have signed up for a free trial at embarcadero.com, and then click install, and the installation process should start. So I will be back once it's finished. So once the installation of RAD Studio is finished, you are going to get a window like this one, and here you have to select the platforms that you want to install. The one that I will select is C++ Builder Windows Enterprise Trial, and I'm going to unselect these other ones. Okay, and I am going to click Continue. Okay, and here you can select additional languages, help, samples, and so on. I will just click Install so that it finishes faster, and the installation process should start once more, and this one is going to take a little bit longer. So again, I will be back once this is finished. And when the installation finishes, you will click Start Working. Okay, and now the RAD Studio should start. Okay, here you will select the theme. I will select dark mode and click Next and click Get Started. Okay, so here I have opened RAD Studio, and first I want to make an introduction so that you understand the main parts and components that we are going to use, and then we are going to build the application that you saw at the beginning of this video. So let's create a new project. You can click here on Create a New Multi-Device Application with C++ Builder, or you can click on File, New, and then Other. Okay, and here you are going to see Multi-Device Application, and it says that Multi-Device Application is an UI application that works on any operating system or device. So that is what we are going to select, and I will click OK, and then here I am going to select Blank Application, and I will click OK again. After you create a new project, you will get a window that looks like this, and there are 4 parts of this window that I want to explain because we will use them a lot. And that is projects part in the upper right corner, and then structure in the upper left, and then we have object inspector in the bottom left, and in the bottom right corner we have this palette. And if you don't see any one of these four, what you can do is you can click on view and then tool windows, and here you have all of these and you can enable whichever one you want. So project, structure, object inspector, palette, and so on. Okay, so now I'm going to explain what each one of these four is used for. Inside this projects part, we have all of the files that our application contains, and there are three that I want to explain and focus on, and those are under this unit1.cpp. And as you can see, you can collapse it and expand it. And those three are unit1.cpp, unit1.fmx, and then unit1.h. So this unit1.cpp and unit1.h are used to write C++ code, and then this unit1.fmx is used to store the information about the design of your application. So if you click or actually double click on the unit1.cpp, you are going to get C++ code, and then unit1.h as well contains C++ code, and then if you double click on unit1.fmx, here you have the design of your application, which is just an empty blank form because we created an empty application. So that is the first way to navigate between these three. And then another way is at the bottom, you have a tab control, which has unit1.cpp, unit1.h, and then the design mode of your application, and you can use that as well. So let's move to this upper left corner where it says structure, and here we will have all of the components / controls that our application contains. And currently our application contains only one form, which is completely empty because we created a blank application. But if you decide to add new controls to your application, like text labels, input fields, buttons, list boxes, and so on, those are going to be shown here as well. So now your question might be, okay, Salina, but how can I add new controls or components to my application? And the answer is very easy. So let's move to this bottom right corner where it says palette, and inside this palette we have a lot of the components which are already available for you to use. So you can basically drag and drop them and you don't have to write the code yourself, which is going to save you a lot of time. So let's see what kind of components we have under this standard category. So standard components are components like buttons, checkboxes, radio buttons, what else? Labels, image controls, progress bars, scroll bars, and so on. And you can check this out on your own after you finish this video. So that is what we use this palette window for. And let's drag and drop a couple of components. So let's use this label component. I'm going to put it here. And then let's add an input field. It's called t-edit. So you can search it here. You can type t-edit, and here it is. I'm going to drag and drop that as well. I'll put it here, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger like this and align it with my label. Okay, and then let's add a button. It is here. I'm going to place it here, and I will also make it the same size as my input field. Okay, maybe I'll make this input field a little bit bigger like this. And then another component that I'm going to need is a list box, so a place where I'm going to show my tasks. So let's search for list box. Here it is, and I will put it here and make it the same size as my input field like this. Okay, and let's adjust the size of this form. Okay, perfect. So here we have added all of the components that our application is going to contain, and you can even run your application now. So let's do that. Let's see what is going to happen. Okay, no errors, and here is our application. As you can see, it contains all of the components that we need, but our application is currently dumb, which means that it does not have any logic. So this button here, for example, does not know how to behave when it is clicked. So that is the next thing that I want to change. I am going to stop my application, And let's see, the first thing that I want to change is the text of this label. So I'm going to click on this label, and if you look at this bottom left part where it says Object Inspector, you will notice that here we have Properties and Events. And this Properties tab contains all the properties of the control that has been selected. So in this situation, we selected our label control, and here you can change all of the properties of your label. And the property that I want to change is called text. So let's find that. Okay. Here it says label 1, and that is the text that is shown here. So that is what I want to change. I want it to say, for example, add task, like this, and I will press enter. And as you can see, the text has been changed. Okay, so that is the first thing that I want to do. And then let's change also the text of this button here. So if I click on this button, again, on this Object Inspector window, you will have all the properties and events of this button, and later I'm going to explain what are events and how to work with events. For now, I'm focusing only on properties part. So click on button and then select properties, and here you can change the properties of your button. The one that I want to change again is called text, so let's do that. Instead of having button 1 text on this button, let's say add, like this, and I'm going to press enter. Okay, so if I run my application again, as you can see, here we have add task and then add button. So now we have a better idea of what this application here is doing. In order to make it easier to work with these controls, let's change their names so that they make more sense. And let me show you what I mean by this. So if I click on this add button, properties, and I look for a name property, you will notice that the name of this button here is button 1. And then if I click on this input field, you will notice that its name is edit 1. And then if I click on the list box, the name of the list box is listbox 1. So, the same way that you should give meaningful names to your variables, you should also give meaningful names to your controls. Because if you have, for example, 10 buttons in your application and you leave them with their default names of button 1, button 2, button 3, and so on, it is just a matter of time when you are going to forget what button 3 means or what button 7 means, and so on. So that is the reason why you should use meaningful names for your controls. So let's do that. I'm going to click on this button, and instead of having the name of button 1, I'm going to change it so that its name is add button or add task button. You can use whichever name you want as long as it is meaningful. So let's press enter here, and then I'm going to click on this input field. Its name is edit. I'm going to call it, for example, task edit, or you can call it task input field, whichever name you find easier to remember. So I'm going to save the change here as well, and then I will click on my list box, and the name of this list box will be tasks list box. Okay, like this. So what we have achieved with this is that when we want to refer a specific component from our C++ code, we are going to use the name of that component. And it is going to be much easier for us if that component has a meaningful name. Now, one thing that just happened, and you noticed that if you paid attention since the beginning of this video, is the following. Inside this structure window, now we have additional 4 components, and those 4 components are part of this form 1. So in the beginning we had form 1, and now we have add button, which is this button here, and then label 1. As you can see, we have not changed the name of this label here. That is why it has the default name of label 1. And then task edit, which is this input field here, and then task list box, which is this list box here. And here are the names of all of our components that our application contains. So if I run this application now, nothing has changed in terms of the appearance of the application, but what has changed is that the names of all of these components are different. So when we decide to use those components from our C++ code, we are going to use those names that we assigned to each one of these 3 components. The next thing that I want to do is I want to implement the logic for this application here. So when I type the text inside this input field, when I say, for example, this is task 1, and I click on this add button, it should add this text to my list of tasks. So that is the next thing that I want to do, and in order to know how to do that, you will first need to understand a little bit about events and how to work with events. So that is the next thing that I'm going to explain. So what is an event? In programming, an event is just an action that can be caused by the user or by the software itself. The examples of some events are, for example, a mouse click, and that event is called onClick, or when you press a key, and that event is called onKey down. Or, for example, when you hover over a button, and that event is called onHover or onMouse enter, depending on the language in which you work. The naming is a little bit different, but the logic is absolutely the same. So one event is when you hover over a button, and then another event is when you leave that button. So let me show you how this hover event works, because it is implemented by default. So I'm going to run my application, and if I hover over this add button, as you can see, it becomes blue. So someone has written the code which says, on hover, please become blue. And that please become blue part is called event handler, which means that that is the behavior that is going to happen when a certain event is raised. So what I want to do now is I want to handle another event, which is mouse click. That event is called onClick, and the behavior that I want on click of this button here is I want to take text from this input field, this task edit, and I want to add that task to my task list box. So that is the event that we are going to handle now. Let's close this application, and as I said, the event that I want to handle will be the event of this button here, and I'm going to switch to this events tab, and I will find event called onClick. And here, if I want to create an event, I just need to double click on this input field, and as you can see, two things happened. The first one is that we created a function called add button click, and here we are going to implement that function. So here we are going to write the code of what is going to happen when add button is clicked, and then this function also has been connected with this onClick event, which means that when that button is clicked, so onClick, please invoke this function here. And as I said, here we are going to describe the behavior of that function. And one tip, if you're not familiar with functions, I will link in the upper right corner a playlist where I explain everything that you need to know about functions, and I will also link that playlist in the description of this video, so make sure to watch that if you don't understand what are functions. So now if you watched all of my previous videos, you can see how all the things that I explained come together and make perfect sense. So before I implement this function, let me show you very quickly what has changed in these other files. So if I open my design tab, you will notice that nothing has changed in terms of design. And then in this unit1.h, we have added a declaration of function called add button click. Okay, and then inside this unit1.cpp, we are going to implement that function. So once more, what I want to happen when add button is clicked is the following. Let's move to design mode, and when this button is clicked, I want to take the text from this input field, which is called task edit, and I want to add that text to my tasks list box. So that is the code that I will write in my unit1.cpp. So here I'm going to create a variable of type string, and I will call it task text like this. So I want to access a control called task edit, so I will say task edit, and I want to access its property called text like this, and make sure to use this pointer, because if you use a dot, it is not going to work. So again, make sure to use this symbol here. Okay, so with this, we have taken the text from our task edit and we have stored that text inside this string variable. That is the first step. And the second step is to add this task text into our list box. So I will refer to my list box and its name is tasks list box, like this. And I want to access the items of my tasks list box. So I will say items, and then what I want to do is I want to add a new item. So I will use add method, and that item will be this text here. So I will pass a parameter, which is the text from our task edit. And with this, we have successfully implemented the handler for add button click. So if I run my program now, let's see what is going to happen. Okay, perfect. So let's type, for example, task 1, and let's click add. And as you can see, this task has been added to our tasks list. Let's add another task. Okay, and then third task, fourth, and so on. Now, one thing that I would like to happen is when I add this task, I would like this text to be deleted. So let's add that code as well. I'm going to close the program, and here, after I have added the task to my tasks list box, and what I want to do is I want to say that the text of my task edit is now going to be equal to an empty string, like this. So if I run my program again, okay, and if I add task 1, and click add, as you can see, the text has been cleared. Let's add another task, add, and again, the text has been cleared. So that is the first functionality. And the second functionality that I want to implement is when I click a specific item of this list, I want that task to be removed, which means that that task has been completed, so I remove it from my list. Okay, so that is another functionality that we are going to implement. And in order to implement that functionality, we need to handle another event. So let's switch to our design mode. And the event that we want to implement is the event of this list box here. And that event is called onItemClick. So let's find that event. It is here. So when an item of this list box is clicked, what do we want to happen? So again, in order to implement the event, we need to double click on this field here. And as you can see, it has added task list box item click. So it has added a method which we are going to implement here. Again, the declaration of that method has been added inside our unit1.h. Nothing has changed in terms of our design. And then we are going to implement that method here. So if I scroll up, you are going to see that here is the implementation of our add button click event. And then below it, we are going to implement tasks list box item click. So what do we want to happen when an item of our list is clicked? The answer is we want to remove that item. So how we are going to do that? Well, we are going to use one of these two parameters that we received inside this function. So if you pay attention, this function has two parameters. The first one is the sender, and then the second one, which we are going to use, is called item. And this item represents the exact item of our list that has been clicked. So if you have a list that has 3 tasks, for example, and you click on the second one, here you are going to get that second task. So we need to remove this item from our list. Now, the way to remove items from a list box is by using their index. So the same way that an array has indexes, a list also has indexes. So what we need to do is we need to ask this item, hey, what is your index? And then we are going to tell to our list box, please remove the item that has that specific index. So let's do that. So the first thing that I want to do is create an int variable called index. And what I want to store inside this index variable is index of this item here. So I am going to say item index. Again, make sure to use this pointer because if you use dot, it's not going to work. Okay, so here we have the index of the item that has been clicked. And now what we need to do is we need to remove the item with that index from our list box. So in order to do that, I will say tasks list box like this, items delete. Okay, and this delete method receives the index of the item that we want to delete. So I'm going to say, please delete the item that has this index here. So with this, we have successfully implemented item click event on our list box. So if I run my program now, let's see what is going to happen. So let's move it here and let's add a task. Let's say task 1, add, and then task 2, add, task 3. Okay, that's enough. So if I click a specific task, as you can see, that task is going to be removed. And then this one and this one as well. So those are two functionalities that I wanted to show you, but this application also has some bugs. And the first bug that I noticed is that this add button will add a new task even if this field is empty. So it will add an empty task basically. So if I click add, and if I add, for example, task 5, as you can see, that task is going to be added on this position here, because here we have tasks with empty text, and you can remove those tasks, as you can see. So that is one bug that I'm going to leave to you so that you can fix it on your own. And then if you find any other way to upgrade this application and add some additional features, feel free to leave your ideas in the comments section. So thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm because that helps me a lot to reach more people. And then also share it with someone who would like to learn programming because that way our community is going to grow faster. So that is all for this video. It's currently 5 a.m. and I have to go to sleep. Bye.